let's talk about PragerU. They've got a video called "What's Wrong with Atheism," and I just want to take a look at it. It sounds god awful. But first, let's get into the fan art section. This one is from Fluffer Bakura. Decided to clean it up a bit. The shines have no rhyme or reason. Few. Well, you know what? I think they both looked good. But I just think that fan art looks good in general because y'all spend way too much time doing stuff for me and my channel, and I don't fucking deserve it. But I'm thankful for every single bit of it that comes in. Alexandra Tees. In today's video, I saw a few artworks of Lord Dumpy, and in my mind, this is how I imagined them. I'll end you. Anyways, the next one we have here is from Lore Does Art. Hey, drew this in the style of Cult of the Lamb because I like the vibes. You know what? As long as I'm not one of the betrothed that gets sacrificed, I'll be golden. As always, everyone, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it in the fan art section of the Discord. With all that said, if you haven't subscribed or checked out any of the other channels, please consider doing so. They should all be available in the description. With that all said, let's go ahead and get into the video itself. What's Wrong with Atheism by Stephen Meyer.
In a recent interview,
Let's get you louder.
while I was presenting some scientific discoveries that may point to the existence of God, a camera operator, a young woman whom
Quethom, what the fuck? It's You know what? I should just expect this. Quethom, thank you for the redeeming 50,001 channel points. I don't know why you would do that, but, you know, you did. You did. Fine. You know what? Long hair. Don't care. For 50,001 channel points, you get... Uwu. Ugh. Screw you. Uwu. There. Anyways, let's go ahead and get on to the actual content. No more of that. Splinter Kid, thank you for redeeming your points for an owl. That's correct. The other one is wrong. Okay. Back to things.
I'll call Maria, began to weep visibly. Later she told me the reason for her tears. Like many young people, Maria believed in God when she arrived in college. But while there, she repeatedly encountered professors who insisted that based on the science, God was a myth.
Which professor says based on the science, God is a myth? How do you get to that position scientifically? Like, I don't believe in a God, but I want to ask, how do you get to that position scientifically? Can you show me the algorithm that gets us there? Can you show me the experiments that are done for that? Because I don't think you can. This feels very much like This feels very much like one of those stories that never fucking happened. But don't worry, everybody clapped, and it definitely happened.
No more real than Santa Claus. Maria didn't feel equipped to challenge her professors. She eventually left college with nagging doubts about her faith and wondered whether life, including her own life, might be nothing more than a cosmic accident.
Even if your life's an accident, you can still make meaning out of it. I don't like this rhetoric that just, if life is accidental, it has no meaning. Life can both be accidental, completely no purpose whatsoever imbued into it, and yet you can make purpose for yourself. And I feel like making purpose for yourself is infinitely more important than whatever purpose might have been thrown into it by someone else. Like, think of it this way. In life, if your parents want something for you, or you want something for yourself, which one is more important? For most people, we would agree that the thing you want for yourself is more important than the thing your parents want for you, so long as both you and your parents are equally informed. You may want to be a ballerina astronaut when you're 10 years old. That may not trump your parents wanting you to be a psychologist when you're 10. But when you're old enough to recognize what is an actual job and what's not, when you get to that stage, the thing you want trumps what your parents want for you, because the thing you want will likely make you happier than the thing someone else wants for you. It's always very weird to me when people believe that God is anything other than a parent in this equation. Even if you believe in a God, the thing God wants for you is identical to the thing your parents want for you. The thing you want for you should still trump it.
Many young people share Maria's doubts. Indeed, powerful voices in the academy tell us that science makes belief in God and human significance untenable.
No, it doesn't. And I want to know the professors that do that. I want to know the professors that say science leads to nihilism without any kind of follow-up. I want to know if that actually happens.
Or as Richard Dawkins, the famed atheist from Oxford, has asserted, the universe we observe has precisely the properties we should expect if there is, at bottom, no design, no purpose, nothing but blind, pitiless indifference.
Okay, again, what does he say after that? Because, again, the universe having no purpose for you, the universe being blind to your struggles, the universe not being built for you does not mean that you cannot still make a significant life for yourself.
But are we the product of such indifference?
Yes.
That is purely materialistic processes that did not have us in mind as a...
You are here because your parents boinked. No ifs, ands, or buts. You are here because two adults decided to have sex. You were not part of that equation. A child may have been part of the thought process if you were not what some would call a happy accident, but you, the person that is you, the culminated experiences of everything you have ever achieved, that person, no thought was given to that person because that person didn't exist yet. Guess what? That does not make you less significant. That does not make your life not worth living. That does not make your life some terrible accident. That just makes you you. The fact that there was no meaning besides two people who you don't want to think about fucking unless you're really deep in Alabama. The fact that their lives at one point did not include you, and the thing that made you may not have even included you in the thought process behind it, does not change the fact that you as an individual are significant and are important. Because you make your own importance. The world that you shape around yourself is what makes you important. But okay, let's keep going.
As another scientific atheist has put it, does the universe have the properties we should expect if this all there is matter vision of reality is correct? Perhaps not. 3 major scientific discoveries contradict the expectations of scientific atheists.
Oh? 1, what the fuck is a scientific atheist? That's not a word in philosophy. But let's go ahead and take a listen.
And point instead in a distinctly God-friendly direction. First, the Big Bang. Discoveries in observational astronomy and developments in theoretical physics have revealed that the universe had a beginning. This is contrary to the expectation of scientific materialists.
No, it's not. Okay, so the Big Bang is when time began. Time-space as we know it began. T = 0. That is when things began changing. However, that does not mean the universe as we know it began to exist. Ex nihilo, out of nothing. The running theory with the Big Bang is that all matter that we have in the universe right now was at one point concentrated into a hot, dense state in a very singular point, probably about as big as the period you just put on that piece of paper. You know, that bit of homework that you ignore doing because you're watching my channel, which is both really, really risky and also incredibly based at the same time. I don't know what advice to give you. Your education's important. But the universe itself existing as that little dot does not mean that the universe came into existence. That means the universe as we know it came into existence. But all of the matter, all of the energy, it was all there. It just existed in a different form. That's not the same thing as what he's saying. Sorry, had to sneeze real quick. Being allergic to all the animals you love sucks. But now, universe ex nihilo. There are some scientists who believe in that, but that's if you start peeling away all of the layers of physics until you hit potentiality only. Like, once you go down to the quantum realm, then yeah, maybe we got something to talk about there. But that also doesn't require a god. Hell, there's even pagan versions of creation that didn't require a god at the beginning of creation. Strange that.
Who long portrayed the universe as eternal and self-existent, and therefore in no need of an external creator.
Okay, so if the universe was external and self-existent, that's kind of what we see, right? Like, if what we understand about the universe and the Big Bang is that all of matter was, and all of energy was concentrated into that small state, then wouldn't that mean that, yeah, that's exactly what we have?
This evidence for a beginning has instead confirmed the expectation of theists. Nobel laureate Arno Penzias helped make a key discovery establishing a cosmic beginning. He later observed, "The best data we have are exactly what I would have predicted, had I nothing to go on but the first 5 books of Moses and the Bible as a whole."
So what he's doing right now is called quote mining. He is trying to support a hypothesis not using science, but using disparate quotes from various people. I do not know the thought process behind the person he is quoting. I do not know the evidence outside of the quote. I am only given the quote. I don't like when people use quotes in any of their argumentation, because I never know if the quote is being used disingenuously or not. This is the type of shit that I expect to see when somebody is trying to lie to me. I don't give a fuck about these quotes. I care about the culminations of all of their research, and I care about whether or not they can even be cited as an authority.
And he's not alone. Cosmological evidence has led other prominent scientists, including former MIT physicist Gerald Schroeder and the great Caltech astronomer Alan Sandage, to affirm a transcendent creator beyond space and time as the best explanation for the origin of our finite universe.
But why do they do that? Is it because they live in a society that, by and large, already purports to believe in that God, and then we start assigning things post hoc to that belief? Is that why that's happening, or do we know? Do we have any way of figuring that out? Because if we don't do that, then we've got corrupt data we're working with.
Second, fine-tuning. We live in what Australian physicist Luke Barnes calls an extremely fortunate universe, where fundamental laws and physical parameters have somehow been fine-tuned with just the right strengths and values to make life possible.
Life is possible on less than half of a percent of the known universe. If that's fine-tuned for life, then erectile dysfunction is fine-tuned for large loads of cum. I'm sorry, no. The best argument against the fine-tuning argument. Whatever life ever happened to come up, whatever life happened to randomly sprout out of any ooze of any kind in any area would say the exact same thing. Look at how fortunate the circumstances were for me to be alive. You want to know what the circumstances were for you to be alive? Well, one, your parents boinked. How likely was it that your parents boinked? How did your parents meet? Ask yourself that. What did they meet on a plane? So there was a single instance where they met, and then had they not been on the exact same flight, had there been a layover somewhere, they would not have been on that flight together? Did they meet at a rollerblading rink, or were they in the same school? How many chances did they have to meet each other before they boinked and made you? Now ask yourself the next question, what about your parents' grandparents? Now I want you to take whatever the probability you came up with out of your ass for your parents' meeting and boinking and making you... Oh, by the way, the chances of you coming out. Coming is actually the exact word we need to use here. Of all of the sperm that went to the egg, that did its damnedest to fertilize the egg in your mom's ovum, that sperm, 300 million of them died in the attempt. Yours made it through. Unlucky for you. Now you've got to deal with capitalism. But at least you get to deal with Sonic the Hedgehog. Maybe that's a plus for you. Maybe that's a minus. I don't know. So we've already got a 1 in 3 million chance of you fertilizing the egg. Oh, it's lower than that because depending on the time of the month, it could have been a different egg. You could have been a different you. Who the fuck knows? So we've already got an incredibly low chance that you came to be. Now we've got the incredibly low chance your parents met and boinked. Now, multiply whatever that is by 2 because you got your grandparents. Let's just use the same data. Now multiply that by 4 because that's your grandparents' grandparents. Now multiply that by 8. That's your grandparents' grandparents' grandparents. And now you start to ask yourself, well, hold on. This number is already pretty infinite, and I've only gone back, like, 4 generations. Wow. No matter what situation I find myself in, the probability of me being here is really close to 0. No matter what it is. Almost as if the probability argument is bullshit. Because we could use the probability argument to say that it was incredibly unlikely you would come about. But you're already here. Why does any of that matter? Unlikely things happen all the time. It doesn't matter that unlikely things happen. Unlikely things happening is just a result of you and me, as human beings, desperately trying to make sense of a universe that does not know we exist with math. That's all that is.
The incredible odds against this happening by chance has led even agnostic and atheistic physicists to marvel.
Wow. Math is impressive, strange, big numbers are cool, awkward. Prince Catsbane, thank you for redeeming your points for an owl. Anyway.
As British physicist Paul Davies has exclaimed, the impression of design is overwhelming. Atheist physicist George Greenstein expresses similar cognitive dissonance. The thought insistently arises that some supernatural agency must be involved.
Again, when we are dealing with the mere fact that the math says things are incredibly unlikely, we as humans are pattern-seeking individuals. We like to terminate our thoughts. We like our thoughts to have ending. We like things to conclude. As a result, if we cannot get to a conclusion, a lot of times we will insert our own conclusion and it won't be right. Let's say you're in a house and you hear bumps in the night. It could be that the house is settling and you're hearing wood creak as you would in that situation, or it could be ghosts. Which one is more likely? Well, it could be neither of them. You could have rats in the attic. Who knows? But you're not going to be satisfied with an I don't know. Most people will not be satisfied in that situation with an I don't know. So they'll insert, however incorrect, anything into that thought to terminate it. Aaron Primmett, thank you for redeeming your points for an you fucking degen.
Third, the complexity of life. Molecular biology has revealed the presence in living cells of an exquisite world of informational nanotechnology, digital code in DNA and RNA, tiny, intricately constructed molecular machines, a complex information storage, transmission, and processing system that resembles but vastly exceeds our most advanced digital high technology.
Almost as if everything you do is based on something else. A computer is a brain. A computer is just a really, really slowly functioning brain. That's not super impressive. I mean, it's impressive that we've managed to get that far in technological design, but it's not super impressive outside of that. Think about this. There are living organisms inside your stomach right now that are helping you digest food. There are. You have things living inside you, and they are making your life either better or worse if you've got IBS. Now, is that amazing? It can be, sure, but is that evidence of a god? Because what this basically sounds like is the world is complex, so something god. Like, I'm not sure how we get to the god part here. Salem says, computers can do maths faster than me, and I'm pretty sure it can process faster than my crappy brain. Right, but there are things that the human subconscious is better at doing and better at processing than what our computers can do. Math, your computer doing math, is a single finite algorithm. Your body operating your white blood cells is 1,000 of those. Salem says, I know I was making a joke. That's fair. It's very hard to read over text.
Not what anyone would expect to see as the result of blind, materialistic processes.
Or is it exactly what we would expect to see? So, if I give you the number 5,367,854,502 and a quarter, that's a huge number. And you would ask yourself, how did you get to such a huge number? And if I started counting in increments of 0.25, I would eventually hit that number, and I will hit numbers beyond that. The number that I hit will get bigger and bigger and bigger the longer I'm given time to count. So if you have incredibly simple genetic structures and single-celled organisms, and those incredibly simple structures grow over time into larger and larger structures, down to the point where we start having multicellular structures in organisms, all we're doing is counting in those little increments of a quarter to get to us. That something billion number, that's us. What we are is not amazing. Oh my god. The fact that this could have happened, it's so astounding. No, what we are is an inevitability. You and I, 4 million years ago, 4 billion years ago, in fact, or 14 billion if we're talking about the Earth, however long you want to go back, once that single-celled organism starts doing its thing, the minute, the nanosecond, multicellular life begins to arise because one single-celled organism attempts to cannibalize another single-celled organism, and instead of breaking that organism down, they start working symbiotically instead of parasitically. The nanosecond that happens, you and I are an inevitability, or at the very least, something resembling you and me. And when I say you and me, I'm not talking about human beings specifically, Homo sapiens sapiens. I'm talking about life. Just life. Some kind of potentially eukaryotic life. We are an inevitability down that chain. You will hit that number. Naki Bree says that's how mitochondria, chloroplasts, and plants happened. Yeah, that's why I used that example. Because that's what we know happened. A single-celled organism cannibalized another organism. And ended up operating symbiotically instead of parasitically. Like, that's a thing we know happened. From the second that happened, the likelihood increases of more multicellular life happening. And eukaryotic life, as we understand it, or at least some approximation thereof, is an inevitability after that point. That giant number, that 64 billion large number, that is an amazingly huge and prophetic thing until you consider that anybody counting from a number greater than 0 will eventually hit that number if given enough time. Life has had enough time. Eventually, we got pretty complex. It's not super astounding in terms of, oh my god, this is so complicated, I can't fathom it, therefore God. It's very cool and very great for people who are fixated or have special interests in biology, in nanotech, people who care about that type of stuff, people who care about it greatly. This is astounding for them. For laymen who just want a really easy allegory for how this happened, it's just numbers. It's an inevitability. We were going to be here in some form or fashion.
Dawkins himself may have conceded as much when he recently confessed to being knocked sideways with wonder at the miniaturized intricacy of the data processing machinery in the living cell.
But he's still an atheist. So what changed?
So what should we make of all this? For their part, scientific atheists have constructed ever more convoluted and fanciful theories. They posit alien designers to account for the code of life.
Who does that? Who does that? Fragwitz, thank you for the follow, but who does that? Can you show me one, quote, scientific atheist who said, actually aliens? Who?
Multiple parallel universes to try to explain fine-tuning.
Parallel universes I have heard. But that's not really to explain fine-tuning. Parallel universes are mainly just, from what I understand, and I'm not an expert, but when you start stripping away the elements of our physicality down to the quantum realm, once you get there, the idea of parallel universes is just kind of an inevitability, right? Because certainty is a suggestion in quantum physics. Like, I'm pretty sure the parallel universe thing is very Schrödingery. Like, what was it? The split experiment? The double slit experiment. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the entire premise of that was just showing that, like, observation literally changes where certain matter will be located on the quantum level, right? At that point, parallel universes in some form or fashion, by some description, are just kind of a matter of the fact that once you get down to quantum physics, we're dealing with potentialities and suggestions. I'm not an expert in it. I don't know a fuck ton about it. But I think maybe I know a little more about Stephen Myers here. Maybe, just a little bit.
And they've developed elaborate mathematical equations in an attempt to use physics to show how the universe could have begun from nothing physical.
Okay. Neat. Sounds like good science.
But what if the scientific atheists are just wrong?
Okay, what if they are wrong? Can your God prove himself now? That would be helpful for this.
What if the universe has precisely the properties we should expect if there is an intelligent and purposeful creator behind it all?
Then you should be able to demonstrate that scientifically, right? I mean, you said that people had demonstrated scientifically that he wasn't a thing, and that apparently God was within the bounds of science enough for these people to be having these conversations to begin with, right? So, by that logic, shouldn't you be able to? Agent Zapdos, thank you for reading your points, friend. Oh, well.
In my book, Return of the God Hypothesis, I argued that the universe has precisely such properties.
Oh, boy, it's a book advertisement. That's a very booky advertisement. How about instead of that, you check out this channel's sponsor for the next week, Mech Arena. We're actually, after this video and a quick Q&A video, we are going to be playing a little bit of Mech Arena together on stream. So if that's a thing you want to do, even after the sponsorship, we're going to be playing that. There should be a link in the description below. If you're in stream, hit the exclamation mark mech command. Any of those things. Get to level 10 and we can play together. Get to level 9 and we can do competitive PvP stuff. But yeah, anyways, maybe instead of his book, do that one. Maybe do that one. Let's see if there's anything else in this video worth caring about.
And that raises a hopeful possibility that we are not the product of blind, pitiless indifference, but instead that we were made on purpose, that we were intended.
I don't think it matters. In fact, actually, here's my reason why I don't think it matters. Whether your parents intended you to come about or didn't, that has no bearing on how much they will or will not love you and how good of parents they will or will not be. I care not whether or not the universe was intended to come about. I care not if we were intended to come about. I care whether or not, if there is a deity, that deity cares enough about us. That's as far as I care. So the universe began with a cosmic bond oak. God was just like, dinosaurs! Fuck those guys! People! That's what it's about. I'm gonna make that happen. That's the one that leads to Naruto the Abridged series. So I'm just happy to be here with you wonderful beings. Well, thank you, Bondo. Anyways, with that said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. That's enough of PragerU. Hopefully you didn't get inseminated with too many terrible ideas. All that said, hit the like button if you haven't already. Check out the other channels if you haven't already. And as always, everyone, insert end the video tagline here.